Scorpio, this is your week ahead astrology forecast by Astrology Motivation from Born Without Boundaries. In these weekly videos, I review the major planetary aspects and transits, and then I let you know how they're going to impact your natal sun and what that means for your day-to-day, for your bottom line. I'm going to start off really broad with the chart of the day, for the chart of this whole week, to see how all of us are being impacted. And then I'm going to focus things down into Scorpio specific information. And then I will break everything down into the 3 decans of Scorpio, which will help you understand how all the other planets are impacting your natal sun, because you'll see that not all Scorpios are going to be impacted the same way by what's happening. So all you need to know to understand this video is your birth date, because I will translate everything else for you. Most accurately though, grab a free natal chart, because it's easy, it's free, it's simple. All you need is your birth date, birth time, and birth location. And I know that for some of you, depending on what country you're in, everything is not on your birth certificate, right? I know over here in the States, all that information can be found on your birth certificate, and that is public record, so you can go grab that. Or just ask your mom, because to be honest with you, moms usually know. But for everybody else, I would say start with mom, start with grandma, start with dad, start with somebody who was there who could help you out with some of that information. It's actually a really beautiful way to start diving into your family history as well. So let's jump into the big stuff. We're going to start off with really broadly. I'm going to focus in on the things that I think are the most impactful this week. This is for August 15th to the 21st, 2023. And when we start off this week, Mars is around 20. When we start off, it's around 21 degrees Virgo. And Mercury is already conjunct. So Mars and Mercury are already conjunct. But what's happening is by the end of this week, or basically by the middle of this week, Mars is already forming right now a loose opposition to Neptune. And that is not the best energy in the sky. And let me talk about why. And as the week goes by, not only will the opposition between Mars and Neptune become even greater, but Mercury is going to be joining Mars in that opposition. So Mercury will be opposite Neptune as well. This is also, once again, not the greatest energy. Meanwhile, meanwhile, there is a lot of good stuff going on, but this is fairly deceptive energy. It can be self-deceptive. It could be making decisions or trying to overcompensate for perceived inadequacies that you have to dive in and push forward and make decisions that maybe you're not ready to make, or just I call it the shadow puppet on the wall. That's what I call it. It's like you're aiming at shadows, right? You're wasting all the time and energy, and you're making judgments and decisions based on shadows instead of the truth. It's very easy whenever there's planets interacting with Neptune in an opposition. It can be very challenging energy to know what is real and what is not. And when you have Mercury and Mars conjunct in Virgo, I actually like that energy because I think it can be quite productive. Both of those energies are quite productive when they are in Virgo. They're get things done, schedule, practicalities, compartmentalize, plan things out, logistics. Think logistics, especially those two together. Very much a productive energy. But with the opposition to Neptune, there can always be this perpetual agitation for the next week and a half, especially as Mercury is going into shadow period. It will slip into retrograde by the 23rd, which will happen next week in the next video. We could talk a little bit about that too. Mercury is in shadow period now. What does that mean? It means it's slowing down, essentially. It's not moving as fast. Mercury usually moves about 10 degrees every single week through a zodiac sign when it's at full speed. But right now it's about 4 or 5 degrees it's moving. So it has really slowed down. And like I said, by next week it will be officially in retrograde. Not just Mercury though. That makes Mercury in retrograde. It means Venus is still in retrograde. So we have Mercury and Venus, two very important planets, inner planets that impact us every day. And then we have our outer planets, Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune already in retrograde by the end of August. And by September 3rd, we'll have 2 more planets in retrograde because Uranus and Jupiter will join the retrograde bunch. So we really are slowing down now. And the expectation for things to happen outwardly, it's going to lead to disappointment. Retrograde, especially retrograde season, whereas most of the planets, except really for Mars, though on September 4th, Venus comes out of retrograde. But by September 3rd, the day before, we'll have most planets in retrograde. So, and then still, even though Venus will come out of retrograde, Venus and Mars will be going direct, but she'll still take some time to speed up, and we have all these other planets still in retrograde. So what you want to do during retrograde season, I just had this discussion on my members only live tarot sessions. I do those over on Born Without Boundaries, and if you would like to join the memberships, the Born Without Boundaries membership or the Harmony membership, because I go live for members only, and we have much more in-depth conversations, and I pull tarot cards for you guys as well, and it's just a much more intimate, safe setting. So we were having a conversation, and I was saying how retrograde season is really about doing internal work, really digging through all, the closets that you shove shit into, really going in. This is the time to clean house internally and personally, and not expect a lot of progress or jumping forward, because that's not what really retrograde season is about. It is about allowing yourself to slow down and dig deep instead of trying to reach wide. So Mercury is gearing up toward retrograde. I would not be surprised if some of you are already feeling kerfuffles, complications, different kinds of mechanisms not working correctly. I would absolutely not be surprised if you're already experiencing that. But the Mercury conjunction to Mars in opposition to Neptune, that is going to grow more powerful as the week goes on, is worrisome. It's worrisome energy, because it means that we could be scheduling and planning and doing it, almost feeling incessantly like I have to do something, but you're really not doing anything because you're doing it based on faulty information or even paranoia, as opposed to digging inward, trying to structure outward. It's not the best time to do so right now. Yeah, and with Mercury there with Neptune at the end of the week in opposition, it really does produce brain fog, and also deceptive speech, deceptive talking, deceptive information. So it's not the best time to take action, and it is the best time, I think, to do more research and dig deep, and not to act before you really have given things time to ruminate and looked at all the perspectives. We have a beautiful grand trine. It's a grand earth trine all week long, and it's a trine between Mars, Uranus, and Pluto. Pluto at 28 degrees Capricorn, Uranus at 22 degrees Taurus, and Mars at eventually 22 degrees Virgo. Mars is going to move between 22 and 26 degrees Virgo this week. That'll still keep it in that grand trine with Pluto. So this will be very strong all of this week. What does that mean? Well, there is a relaxation there when it comes to a trine, which is really good, especially with all the retrograding happening. Remember, both Pluto and Uranus are in retrograde. So there is this energy of, you know what? We need to get more comfortable with change. We need to get more comfortable with things that are unexpected, seeing there be that the traditional systems start to slack off and make room for newer energies to come through, newer ideas or newer ways to do things to come through, and really start to think of, just open yourself up to those possibilities, since both Pluto and Mars are involved in this, and they are both your ruling dignitaries, Scorpio. This is going to have an impact on you, on your sense of originality, on your sense of interest in things that maybe you haven't been interested in before. And I've got to say this, I said it right, plain and simple, this could lead to a fair bit of kink. Oh, I said it, I'll say it again. This could lead to a fair bit of kinkiness. Pluto and Uranus both have that energy about them. And when you get Mars involved, which is the only energy going direct, virility, especially when you're digging in deep, and because it is retrograde season, this understanding of discovering aspects of yourself that maybe you've tried to gloss over, but maybe now you don't have to gloss over them because there's a level of comfort that you have that you never had with them before. This could cause for some I was going to say tension in relationships, but only if you're not willing to experiment together. But this is actually a very sexy time if you're in a relationship. It'll bring you much closer if you're willing to kind of be more odd and more taboo with the way you express yourself sensually and sexually. If you are very much willing to, join each other and practice and play in some different ways together. And especially since Venus is conjuncting the sun and moon this week. We're going to have a beautiful new moon this week on the 16th, and on the 15th, the day right before, the moon is going to be in perfect conjunction with Venus. Now, Venus all week long is going to be conjunct the sun, and they're going to be square to Uranus and trine to Chiron. So that is also the energy of rebellion, of I don't want the same things. I don't think the same things are sexy. I want to stake my claim to my own unique way of being, and I want something unique to be there with me. This is when you get bored with the traditional and you want to test different aspects of who you are, different aspects of beauty, and definitely different aspects of your sensuality with Venus involved. And that grand trine between Mars and Pluto and Uranus is going to support that energy. So it is kind of a week where maybe getting lost in the unexpected and allowing the unexpected to happen is going to be quite a beautiful opportunity actually this week. Let's go into Scorpio specific energy. And the way that I do that is I just look at what's happening in Scorpio and then what's happening with your ruling dignitaries. So there's nothing happening in Scorpio when there's just not. There's nothing really there. There's not anything important there right now. But we do have Mars and Pluto in very active positions. Pluto, which is your modern ruler, so we'll begin with Pluto, doesn't move a lot. But when it interacts with, what does it move a lot? It moves every day, but it doesn't move fast, right? In terms of us and our lives on Earth, it doesn't seem to move at all, but it does. But it does interact because other things are moving around it. So what's happening? We have a long-term trine to Uranus. That's not going to end for a while. I mean, while as in years. And then I have the sextile to Neptune, which is like about the next 13 years it's going to be. And then we have the square to the nodes, which will be for about the next 6 months because of where the nodes are positioned and how fast they move. So this is a very traditional time when we're not afraid to be different. And rebellion is very, very likely, especially once Pluto goes direct and works its way in and really establishes itself in Aquarius. This is you can already feel the understirring of the rumbling beneath the surface. You can already feel it. It just, there hasn't been that explosion yet. There will be by the time Pluto settles itself into Aquarius. I guarantee it. But this week, there's also that trine to Mars, which really gets into that sexual energy, that energy of being connected to and attracted to the taboo, especially with Uranus involved. It's not even temptation, it's comfort. A trine is comfort, like feeling comfortable doing things differently or doing different things, right? It's that sense of I want change, I want to rebel, get outside of the norm, and I have the comfort at this point to be able to do that, and I think it could be a great growth opportunity to be direct. And then we have Mars, of course, trine to Pluto. It's conjunct Mercury all week. This gives it a highly intellectual and communicative edge, especially when Mars is in Virgo. It is very precise. It is very practical and pragmatic, but it's also very almost pedantic in that it likes to know that it's gotten everything correct. So this is actually really good energy for it. Mars is gonna move between 22 and 26 degrees Virgo. Pluto is at 28 degrees Capricorn. It's not moving another degree this week, or it's not finishing off a degree this week. And then we have the opposition to Neptune, which really begins around the 16th. And that gets kind of tough. Though you do have a lot of favorable aspects outside of that, there can be this misleading energy of, I want to push myself based on these false notions, right? So just watch how you're talking to yourself. Neptune could also have to do with our internal world and our ability to fantasize. And when it can be a beautiful thing, but when it's in opposition, it's a pain in the ass, and it doesn't help out at all. So just watch how you're talking to yourself. Watch that you're not making decisions based on perceived inadequacies or information that isn't clear or could be faulty. Don't jump to conclusions, or even jump to conclusions when you see a pattern forming. You really want to test things, especially in the more important decisions that you're going to make. And then Mars is, of course, trying to Uranus this week as well, which just means that, yeah, you guys are big old freaks this week. I'll break it down to you. And overall, it could be very not only pleasurable. It could be very pleasurable, but it could also be very educational. You could introduce yourself to things that you normally wouldn't feel comfortable doing. And I know everybody thinks Scorpios are the freak of the zodiac. It doesn't matter what I'm saying is, if that's your baseline, if that's your norm, if the taboo is the norm, then you might find yourself being interested in the traditional. It's anything that kind of turns things on its head. If whatever is normal can get quite boring. And so you might want to test and understand. And that's why I say it's a great time for education and learning, because even if you don't stick with what you dabble in this week into next week, you're still now kind of more open-minded to the acceptance of it overall. And at least now you have a better understanding of what it means, which could lead to exceptional compassion, which makes us a better person. You know what I'm saying? Let's break things down into the decans, Scorpio. So, if you know that your natal sun is in Scorpio between 0 and 9 degrees Scorpio, it is in the first decan, or group of 10 degrees of Scorpio. This correlates to basically October Scorpios, October 22nd through the 31st. That would be you guys. Your natal sun's not a lot going on, Scorpio 1, for this week. But you do have your long-term aspects of a trine to Saturn, quincunx to Neptune, which could get real agitated this week because it is very active with that opposition to Mercury conjunct Mars. It could be extra frustrating, and you could feel like you have to overcompensate when you actually don't. And then you also have that square to Pluto, but only if you are at the cusp. So that would be the Libra cusp, say the 22nd, 23rd, 24th, maybe. You guys are still square to the nodes, which means that there's a chapter in your life. It's almost like you do want change. You're going to start to see yourselves over the next 6 months actually moving toward what once you weren't interested in, or what once you considered to be difficult. It's going to be demanded more of you. It's going to be more about, the North Node is actually in Aries, so being an individual and being okay being on your own versus falling back to the South Node, which is partnership, needing partnership to feel secure. Now, this could also mean, because they're never disconnected, right? The North and South Node are actually one thing. They're the same. They're just two sides of the path that you walk through life. So this is basically kind of, you're turning a corner now when it comes to being able to calibrate or recalibrate and balance out your individuality within your intimate relationship. So it doesn't mean that you're breaking up with anybody. It just means that you're finding more strength and more personal identity and maybe more freedom to do so. And if somebody interrupts that freedom, then it very well could mean that you're happier by yourself. Just an FYI. Let's go on to Scorpio 2s. So Scorpio 2s, if you know that your natal sun is between 10 and 19 degrees Scorpio, you guys are Scorpio 2s. And by the way that you would know this is your natal chart. Your natal chart will absolutely have this information on it. But if you don't have your natal chart, hang with me. It's okay, because Scorpio 2s, your birthdays are basically November 1st through the 11th. It's in and around that time span, that grouping of birth dates. Your natal suns are, wow, very active this week. They're square to Venus retrograde, which means there can be more frustration and agitation when it comes to your intimate partnerships. And with all this other energy, it could be that you need something new and you need something spicy and you need something unique. And this is a period where you would be more tempted to cheat or step outside of the relationship. That's usually a sign of a weak relationship, a relationship that's already on the rocks. I'm just letting you know that, because if you have a strong relationship, you can go to your partner and easily say, I want to try this. I want to try this. Let's not go to the same restaurant this week. Let's actually not go to a restaurant at all. Come with me. Join me. If you have a strong partnership, this won't be difficult to do. And I think that you could really start to see that if you don't, that's where those are the ones that are those are the Scorpio 2s that are really gonna start feeling bored or unsatisfied in their relationships. Then we have a sextile to Mercury, so there is beautiful ability to communicate and to be able to ask for what you need, to be able to think quickly and to be able to put things correctly and to be able to deeply understand what you mean to say and what others mean to say. So this could actually open up opportunities for you to actually be highly productive this week, especially when it comes to that square to Venus, where really excellent communication is going to come in handy if you are already in an established partnership. Then we have an opposition to Jupiter. Now this is longer term, and it will definitely continue to last for a little while. The opposition to Jupiter is not bad luck. It's actually still very fortunate, but it's almost like I want to grow, and you could get ahead of yourself. So it's really just giving yourself credit for how, for any movement you take, and reminding yourself to realize that all progress is progress. The universe isn't sitting there judging whether you've moved an inch or 1,000 miles. It just wants to know that you're moving. So it's all progress. And with the retrograde, growing and expanding through education, learning, and really just opening your mind to possibilities is also progress. So just an FYI. And then we have that long-term quincunx to Chiron. So you could be a little bit more, and this is for the next year, you could be a little bit more susceptible to, well, let's put it this way. It'll be definitely for the next year for those of you who are born around the 9th, 10th, or 11th of November, because even when Chiron moves to 20 degrees of Aries, which will put it technically in the third decan, you guys at the very end of the second decan are still going to be impacted for the next year. This could cause a great deal of frustration or a feeling of being set upon or things being more difficult. The woe is me energy could be something that is pervasive in your personality right now, or at least feeling like you're not good enough and like you just aren't, nothing's good enough, or not. It's not about not being satisfied. It's about feeling like you can't keep up, or that whatever you do doesn't seem to satisfy anybody else. This is that Chironic challenge that is challenging you to find a deeper self-love and understanding of who you are in order to heal. If you have a physical injury also, it would definitely start acting up in order to get you to confront your more vulnerable side, Scorpio. You guys really have the ability to let things pile up, especially emotions, very deep. And with that quincunx to Chiron, it will stir anything you're trying to, it will make you confront it, anything you're trying to deny or repress. And so it's all about healing. Chiron is ultimately a very healing energy, and you don't have to do it tomorrow, but over the next year, this is a good time. It's what the universe is calling you to do, essentially. All right, let's move on to Scorpio 3s. So Scorpio 3s, if you know your natal suns are between 20 and 29 degrees Scorpio, you are Scorpio 3s. Now, this correlates to Scorpio birthdays between basically the end of Scorpio season and Sagittarius cusps. So the 12th through the 22nd of November, Sagittarius cusps will be the 21st and 22nd. Your natal suns are sextile to the current sun. They are no. They are not, because the current sun is. Oh wait. Yeah, the current sun is in Leo. I wrote that down wrong. Your natal suns are square to the sun all week long. They're going to be square to this new moon. Let's talk about what that means. Square to the sun can compromise the way that you feel about yourself and your sense of self-esteem and make you extra agitated when anybody plucks on your ego. So just please be aware of that this week. The new moon is all about changing. It's all about finding inspiration to allow yourself to be the new version of you and to find value inside of yourself and outside of yourself, welcoming in new things. Now, that maybe you would not have allowed yourself in the past. The fact that this is squared to your natal suns means that you're going to be challenged. This is going to be a challenge for you to let go, to release and make room. But I guarantee for those of you who are able to do it, it'll lead to a lot of healing and happiness. So this is a very powerful new moon for you, especially in terms of issues surrounding identity and attraction, and maybe for some of you, finance. Anything about your value systems, what you value, what you desire in general. This is the theme for this new moon. We also have a sextile between your natal suns and Mars, which gives you a lot of vitality and a lot of energy and a lot of sexuality. And a sextile to Pluto gives you a lot of openness and a really formidable character where people will take you seriously, and you'll be able to open doors for yourself this week, especially with that sextile to Mars. People won't mess with you. They won't mess with you, but it's not because you'll be intimidating them. It's because you'll be impressing them or making an impression on them. And this is exceptional energy for breaking through walls and breaking down doors. We have a trine to Neptune as well, so your natal suns are in a very creative position right now, restructuring everything and getting more connected to your already innate ability to be psychic. And so trust your dreams, watch your dreams. This is going to be really stimulated this week. The opposition to Uranus is once again going to drudge up some of that stuff where what have you been opposed? What have you been trying to fight back? What have you been resisting when it comes to change, or feeling like you always have to change and you always have to resist? And maybe the biggest rebellion you can think of this week is to just not rebel one week, right? To allow things to happen and open yourself up to trusting the way things are flowing. You let me know in the comments below. I'm just kind of stirring it up and offering you a suggestion there. But you will feel that agitation because Uranus is extremely stimulated this week as well. And I just don't think that you'll be so comfortable being ordinary or being, it almost feels like in a way you guys are going to feel like you're being forced to be different when you're not ready. And you don't really love that feeling of being pressured. So that could be a major agitation for you this week. Take a breath, ground yourself either in the earth, feet in earth, feet in dirt, or being by the water, but part of you on land, part of you on water. So sitting on the shore of some sort, and definitely through meditation as well as self-care, because there's pressure points this week that could really make you just haul out and punch somebody or be really pissed really easily. It's good to sort of have outlets or utility belt to temper that energy inside of you, so you make sure you're seeing clearly. You let me know in the comments below, Scorpio. I love you guys to pieces. I hope you come over with me to Born Without Boundaries Tarot for your week ahead tarot card message. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe over here. See you in the videos.